Noah after the flood. So now that they have to build the world again, plant trees, just start life all over again. So Noah and his three sons just do what they have to do. And one of the things that Noah does is that he actually finds a way to plant a vineyard. And once the grapes are ready, he makes wine and he becomes very, very drunk. He becomes drunk, he goes into his tent and he acts not in a very modest way. He takes off his clothes and his son Ham sees him in this disgraceful manner and he doesn't do anything nice about it. It's not very clear what he does, except for sure that he didn't do anything good. But he goes to his two other brothers, to Shem and Yafet, or Sem and Japhet as they're called in English translation, and he tells them. And so what they do, they are shocked, and what they do is, because their father is the biggest tzaddik, he's the righteous man of whatever's left of humankind. He's not the whole the respect to parents was different. I mean, this is the beginning of people, and this is what's left of people, and this is the man who saved humanity. He's a godly person. God has talked to him. You can't just wave it away. What they do is they cover him up with some kind of cover or something, and they don't look at him and they don't see him in his disgrace. They go backwards and as not to see his face, as not to see him in immodest, improper manner, and that's how they cover him. And then they go out. And once Noah wakes up from his once he's after his this situation, and he realizes what has happened, so he's also abashed. But what he also does is he curses Ham, his son Ham, who was disgraceful, and he doesn't curse him directly so much. He curses him as the father of Canaan. Canaan is Ham's son, later to become the nation of the Canaanites. And he curses him too. He says, you Canaan, the son of Ham, or you should be, from you'll become a nation of slaves. You will be a slave to your brothers. That is a very harsh curse, but that's what he tells him. And on the other hand, he blesses Shem and Yafet for the way they dealt with the matter. In any case, that's the first story, and then it goes on and tells us the list of people, of important people who have been born to whichever of these three sons. Through Shem, the son of Noach, 9 generations after Shem, that means 10 generations from Noach through Shem, was later to be born Abraham, the father of the Jewish nation. But other nations are also mentioned. In any case, these three sons become plentiful, and then another generation passes until there's a lot of people who build cities. And what they do is they find some sort of place, which is probably Mesopotamia. It's called Shinar, or Babylon. It's called Babylon because of the story that is next told. The people say to each other, let us make bricks, and we'll just burn these different materials that they had back then, different herbs and everything, and we'll make kind of bricks, and we'll make a city with a huge tower which will reach the skies, and this way we can just stick together and never separate. We'll just be in one place. Now this is against what God told Noah. As you remember, he instructed him to rebuild the land, to go and not, we don't want to have just wild bushes everywhere. You should go and roam the land and make the world a better place by living in it in different places and just thriving. But that was an order, instruction that was given to Noah and was passed down. But here what they do is they ignore it, and they say, let's just make one city, live together in one city, and make one tower. And in a way, they defy God's words. And one way of seeing it perhaps is, even though it's 10 generations, but the catastrophe of the flood was so immense, I assume that you could still see bones and all kind of remnants from the huge flood that was a few generations ago you could see the destruction and everything, and all around of the huge flood that they heard of from their parents all the way back to Noah. And that was a kind of scary place. It's a kind of a scary world to live in when you see evidently in your face, you see the evidence of such a huge flood, of the wrath of God when you go wrong. So they stick together. It's like they're afraid. They stick together. But again, this is defying what God told them. You're supposed to believe in me. I'm a loving God, not a fighting God. I'm not something in your mind that you should have to. No, let's build the world together in a meaningful and trustful way. But they don't do that, and it sounds like what they, on the contrary, what they become so together. It's like the beginning. It's the root of communism in a way, in its worst aspect. They don't give any room for individuality. They just everything is for the general, for the people as a general, as a whole. And there's different commentaries, but again, it's not in the text itself, but it's kind of hinted in the text, the way they're all talking in one language, not only to say that they speak the same tongue, but they have no diversity of opinions. They speak only one thing. So that means if somebody spoke anything different, it wasn't heard. There wasn't. If somebody fell and died while building this building, it was okay. But if a brick fell, it was, oh God, what now? We have to build bricks again and everything. It was all just for the sake of the communal good, so to speak, is the way they saw it. This is really, really the worst part of communism. The individual does not count. It's all for the sake of the general, of the community. So God does not like this, of course. And he decides to do something very simple, actually. It's not deservable of a flood or of, again, erasing mankind. But it's kind of testing them. What he does is he mixes their language. That's why it's called a Babylon, because in Hebrew, the word Bavel means to mix. So he kind of like mixed the languages. So not everybody spoke the Hebrew, but every person spoke something a little bit off the Hebrew, until to the languages as they evolved since, I guess, to whatever led to the languages today. You can find sparks and hints of the Hebrew language in probably in all languages, but in every language that I've heard, you can always find sparks of Hebrew roots in different languages, including English. And if they would have been good, sincere people, and just having a mistake and just having the wrong thought and the wrong mistakenly doing what they're doing, then they should have overcome this difference and somehow found something in common to overcome the language barrier, and still, let's say, be together. But the fact that this brought them to diverse and scatter all over the land because they could not live with each other, because they could not communicate, that means they weren't able to bridge the language barrier and find some other way to find common language. I don't know, by maybe sign language, by just trying to understand and communicating and hearing each other out. The fact that they scattered means that they didn't find a way to overcome this language barrier that God brought them, which means they failed the test, which means they deserved to be scattered, which is what they were supposed to be in the first place, not to stick all together and be one, but each person, or let's say family, or what become nations, to have their individuality, to have their place in the world and in thought in general. You can have your own thoughts, your own mindset, your own place on the face of this earth.